Welcome back to another episode of this series. Today we're going to learn how to handle form submissions. We'll be using Bulma CSS framework to style our table, modal, inputs, buttons. We'll also set up the Font Awesome library so that we can access any of the hundreds of cool icons that it provides. And in JavaScript, we'll create reusable functions, DOM elements, arrays, objects, and we'll use event listeners, we'll use toggle property in the class object. So without further ado, let's start building this project. To get started with this project, let's have a HTML file, a CSS file, and a JS file. Inside our HTML file, we'll add some startup code using VS Code shortcuts, and we'll just change the title. We'll link the CSS file and also the JS file. All set up. Now, I think we should start the live server and check out our page. It's probably going to be empty. Let's add the Bulma CDN first, and we'll also add the Font Awesome CDN. What we're looking for is that link inside the head section. Just copy that and paste it right in your head section. We'll do the same thing for Font Awesome CDN. Just search for it. Although if you really want to get started on Font Awesome, you should probably go to fontawesome.com. You'll see the list of all their icons, and you'll be able to use them in your commercial projects. Now inside our body, let's have a div, and we'll give it a top section class name. And inside it, we want to have a button. We'll just get that from Bulma. If you go to Bulma in the elements, you'll see a button tab. If you click that, you'll find a lot of styled buttons, but let's just go with this one. And we'll change the label to add client. If we save this and we check out our page, we should see a button. But we want to style it up and move the button to the other side of the screen. So we're going to style our top section. First thing we want to do is give it a flex display. And we want to set the justify content to end. A little bit of padding too will make it look nice. Perfect, that's exactly where we want it to be. So now in Bulma CSS, let's go to the table section. We want to copy a class for the table. Let's copy this one. In our HTML, we'll add a table section. Let's give it a class name of table section. Inside here, we'll have a table tag, and we'll have a T head tag and a T body tag. Oh, T body. Don't forget to paste your class, the one we just copied. In our table head, we should probably add some columns, otherwise we're not gonna see anything. So we'll add a row, and the first column is gonna be for the name. The second one's gonna be for the email. And the third one's going to be for the phone number. If we save this, we should see 3 columns. But let's align our table section with the top section. Just add the same amount of padding. Great, now they're in the same line. Okay, let's add a row in our table body section. We'll add a dummy name, let's just say John, and a dummy email, and a dummy phone number. If you save this. Yeah, but we want to add this row from JS, through JS, should I say. So let's cut that out. And in our JS, we want to target to the table body element. We're going to use query selector. We'll use the tag name as the selector. Now, in our table body, what we want to add to is the inner HTML. We'll just paste what we copied. Can remove this space. We'll save that. And we should see the same results, except this time we are actually adding this row through JS. I guess now we can add our client list. is going to be an array, and then we have an object inside. First property is going to be the name. Let's just say John Doe, and the email, we'll set it to john@email.com, and the phone number, we'll just set a dummy phone number and we'll save that. But in order to display those details, we're going to say client list, and the index number of that client, which is 0, first item in the array. I will do the same thing for the email and for the phone number as well. If we save this, we should see those details being displayed in our DOM element. There's a better way to do this, because if we had more clients, like let's say Jane Doe, we would have to write more table rows in HTML. So a better way to do this would be to loop through the client list. And we're going to use a for each loop. So for each client, what we want to do is update the DOM element, the HTML of the DOM element. And instead of using client list, now we have access to the single client. We'll just say client. If we save this, we should see both our clients being displayed in the DOM element. Oh, obviously, it's overriding inside the loop. To stop this, we could use a simple operator. We'll just add a plus right here. We'll save this. There we go. Another way to write this would be to say table body is equals to table body plus this new client. Or you could just have much cleaner code by using this operator. We'll save that. Now, this list, we want it to be generated by the user. So we're going to need the user to be able to add the clients using a form. We're going to display our form inside a modal component, and you'll find this in the Balmas CSS components. Let's use this one. You just copy the styles, and it's that easy. We'll just paste it in another section. Now if we save this, we're not going to see a modal being displayed because it's not activated. To activate it, all you just need to do is add a class. It's active. If we save this, now we should see our modal. Now that we're able to see it, let's add our form right inside the modal body. If you go to the general section, the form, you should find a couple of inputs here. Let's go with this one. Yeah, this one seems okay. We'll just copy this input right here. We want to put it inside a form element. Let's remove the action attribute. Paste our code right here. So first we'll remove the things we don't want, like this line, for example. And the value, we don't want it to be set by default. I guess we could just remove the placeholder too. And the icon at the end, like that one, the check, because we're not going to be doing form validation in this video. Let's just remove that and change this to name. We want to copy and paste this 2 more times for the email input, and make sure you set the type to email. The phone number, you're gonna set the type of the input to tel, and just save that, telephone. Now we want to change the icons. You can find the list of icons of Font Awesome at fontawesome.com. For the email, let's use an envelope. That's how it looks like. And for the phone number, we use a mobile icon. Perfect. Our inputs seem to be all set up. What we need to do now is handle the buttons. Make sure we want to move these buttons inside the form so that we can submit the form. We want to use a submit event instead of a click event. We'll give it a little bit of padding. And this is the Balma class, the Balma CSS. I'll change the label of the button. I guess that is a bit confusing. We have two buttons with the same label, so let's change this to submit. There we go. Now, in order to get the input values, I guess we should give them all IDs so that we can use those IDs in our JS as a query selector. We could just say name input, and the second one would be email input, the third one would be the phone input. We also want to give our form an ID, say add client form. You want to make sure that you set the type to submit. This will help us submit our form much easier without having to click the button. You can just say enter and it would submit the form too. Okay, let's get the name input first. Document.query selector, and we give it an ID, so we'll start with a hash. Let's copy and paste this 2 more times. Oh, my bad. We'll change the second one to email and the third one to phone. Now I have all the inputs, but we need the form in order to add the event listener and so that we can handle the submission. Query selector. It's also an ID. We're gonna add the event listener to the add client form, and the type of event is gonna be submit. In our callback function, first thing we want to get started with is the preventing the default, because sometimes if you don't have this, your page will probably refresh after submitting your form. So to prevent that, we'll just add that line. And we want to save the values of the new client in one variable. We'll set the name property to be the value of the name input element. We'll do the same thing for the email. We'll set it to the value of the email input. Finally, we'll set the value of our phone number property to the value of the phone input. Now to add this client to our client list, we'll just use the push method. And there we go. We should have an extra client in our client list. So let's just console log this so that we can see if it works or not. Save that. You want to open your DevTools, and if we were to write some dummy details in our inputs, dummy phone number, and submit that, we should have an extra client, because remember we only had 2 clients in our client list. Now we have 3. If I was to submit again, we have 4, and you can see these are the same user inputs that we just entered. So it's working just fine, but we want to be able to clear out the form every time we submit, and this is very easy to do that actually. Event.target.reset, and this should reset your form. Let's check to see if this works. Awesome, our form is cleared. And I guess the other thing you want to do is close the modal. I guess we can use the modal class selector. Element is equals to document dot query selector. It's the class name, so we'll start with a dot and paste that. What we want to do is we want to toggle the classes. We'll use the class list object and we'll say toggle. What toggle does basically is just add or remove. It checks if the element does have that class, it adds it. If it doesn't, it removes it. So it's perfectly what we want. We could say class list add and then class list remove, but this is obviously a better way. If you submit, awesome, our form does close. So we obviously also want to update the DOM element, the table body element, the inner HTML of the table body. To do that, I guess we would have to write this code again, but a better way would be to create a reusable function. We'll call it fetch and display clients. We're going to paste that code right here now. So this will refresh the table body element. So we'll call it the first time the page loads, and we're going to call it every time we actually add a new client to the client list. If we save this and we were to add a client, let's just say test. Okay, and a dummy phone number, submit. Oh, so it duplicated it left the clients we already had and duplicated them again. To avoid this, it's quite easy. All we need to do is just empty the inner HTML of the table body. Every time we run this function, it's first going to make sure the list is empty and then add all the clients in the client list. This way we won't have any duplicates. Submit. There we go. Works perfectly fine. But if we were to refresh the page, the modal is appearing. But we don't want that, so we're going to remove this class from here. We only want the modal to appear when we click this button right here. So to do that, we'll have to add an event listener to the button. So let's give that button like an ID. Open modal button. Let's copy that. In our JS, we'll access the element document.query selector. We're going to use the hash. Yeah, we were supposed to use the hash. My bad. You can also use get element by ID. It's just I'm used to this query selector way more. The event is going to be click. In our callback function, we just want to toggle the modal. So we already did that. So let's just copy that line from here. And paste it. If we were to save this and check out our button, oh, it works exactly like we wanted to. Now this icon right here, the cancel button works because of it's a form, but this button doesn't seem to close the modal. If you wanted to close the modal, we'll just go to that icon. Oh, here it is. And you can see we didn't add any special classes to the cancel button, and that's the advantages of using a form. We'll give it a class name. We're gonna say close modal button. Set it to document. I guess it is an icon, isn't it? Query selector. I should probably check Oh, it is. It's a button. So let's change that from icon to button. Yeah. Query selector. Inside here, we'll paste the class. And basically, we're just gonna do the same thing for the close button element, because we're just gonna give it an event listener that toggles the modal, which is the same thing we did for the previous button. So let's copy that and paste it. We'll save. Now we should, oh, so it's not working, but we don't see any errors either. So what could be the problem? We did say close modal and it was a class. So let's check out our JS. Oh, we messed up here. We'll just save that. It should work now. We should close our modal just fine. Perfect. So we were able to close our modal. We were able to add new clients. I'll just have a dummy phone number. Submit this, and there we go. It's working just fine. But well, we're doing this 3 times. I guess the lesson I wanna teach you is reusable functions. They could really come in handy. So let's create a reusable function which toggles the modal, so we don't have to write the same line 3 times. It's going to take in an element. We'll set the value of this element to null, and I'll show you why. First thing we want to do is we want to check if this element actually exists, if it has been passed down. If it has, we're going to add an event listener that toggles the modal on click. And this should work for elements. Now, if we were to check if the element doesn't exist, I guess we should probably use a ternary operator. It's much cleaner. Now, if the element doesn't exist, all we want to do is just toggle the modal. We don't want to have to add an event listener. And we'll save that. Now, to call this function, all we need to do is just call it, and we'll take the open modal button as an argument. We'll do the same thing for the close modal button. And now we don't need this 2 lines anymore. And we can also use this function anywhere else in our JS file, or even export it to other JS files that we could create. And you can see it works just fine. Another place we use this is here, so we could just say toggle modal, and since we're not going to give it any arguments, and that's why we had set the element to null. Either way, our condition will work even if you don't set it to null. Enter. There we go. Now, if you refresh this page, this client over here will disappear, and in the future we're gonna handle things like that. We're gonna make sure the data persists, and even after you refresh, the data still appears, even though we're not gonna be using databases. We're just gonna use the local storage, and we're gonna filter clients, sort clients, delete clients, update clients, and lots more in the episodes to come. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.